This is Red Zombie, a piece of garbage movie I made in 1997. I was 17 years old. And yes, that is ketchup blood. Yes, we used ketchup. And everything else. Those rubber hands made it into so many of my movies. And there you go, the most transparent blood you will ever see in a movie. It was like red food coloring or something. That was before we thought Caro syrup and a little, spot of blue. Who would have thought blue in blood? Looking back, I think this credit sequence is probably the most effective part in the film. I just shot a TV screen, boosted the contrast up. You could see the little rolling bars. Back when video cameras used to capture that all the time. And then the titles were superimposed over with the camera's titling feature. This movie is, in a way, the precursor to The Deader the Better, and that's the reason I decided to include it on this DVD, just to show how much I've improved after this. So this was probably like 8 years before The Deader the Better, I think.
The ground we walk on is haunted.
The hell are you talking about?
The living dead zombies!
Shut up.
Shut up!
Corpse.
That could be a drinking game. Drink every time he says, shut up.
Magic King, the zombie master. Beware. Be very aware.
Shut up!
Because you know why? They like brains. Brains! Brains!
Shut up!
Don't rip out your intestines.
Shut
and
up.
eat 'em. Chop off your head. They love brains.
Joe went completely over the top, and I think what's great, if you watch that scene again, you could see his glasses like falling out of his shirt pocket as he's screaming brains.
Who the hell's that guy?
Ooh, that's me, the zombie master. And yes, Joe does have a lantern in the middle of the day. You could see what we were going for. We were trying to make like an old, creepy, classic horror film, except that it's in broad daylight. The lantern wasn't on anyway, so I figured it just like he still had it. They've been there all night. So yes, that's me as the zombie master. I really enjoyed this part. I just enjoyed the hell out of it. All I did was I wore a black Nike sweater turned inside out and a bunch of masking tape all over my body. And Joe has his glasses on in that shot, you could see. There's all kinds of continuity errors. And then I start stabbing him here. And I remember I just wanted to really go over the top. And I just wanted there to be blood spraying everywhere. So Joe has this turkey baster and he's like squeezing it. And then coming up, he throws a cup of blood on me. And here it comes. And there. And you can see me laughing. I just enjoyed it so much. You see Joe's bicycle in the background, by the way. Joe's getting all bloody and messy, and I guess I just enjoyed throwing fake blood all over people. But this was Joe's chance to get back at me, because he had to throw some blood right onto my face here, and he missed. And we did it a few times. And the first time we tried it, it was perfect, but here's how it went. I'm like, okay, Joe, here's a bucket of blood. You're going to throw it on me. And he's like, oh, yeah, you don't got to tell me twice. And he's all excited. And then I hit record, and you know how there's a delay when you hit the record button. It takes, a couple seconds before it starts going. So this is what happens. Record. Okay, action. Blah! And then he just throws it on me. He doesn't even wait. And it didn't even get picked up on film, but you just see me dripping and like yelling at him, and it was perfect. Every drop hit me in the face, but it wasn't on camera. So this is a graveyard that we used a lot of times. I mean, it was a real pet cemetery. Everybody in the neighborhood used to bury their dead pets back here. And for some reason there was a hole. I don't know why it happened. I guess we just decided one day to dig a hole because it was fun. And we ended up using this hole for more movies than I can even count. So I guess it's important to note that this movie was never finished because it was too hard to get everybody together. And that's the way it was when you had school and, people didn't have time. And I love that right there where he does the flip. So when people were available, they were all about it. Everybody had a lot of fun with this. And I guess it should be said that this was filmed in only 2 days. And I think it's very obvious when the second day begins. We'll see if you can tell. So be on the lookout for that. I will say right about this time, once it gets to like later in the day, there's always that, possibilities like somebody's mom is gonna call and somebody's gonna have to go home. Somebody's gonna have to go in for dinner or something, and you knew that that was the death call. As soon as somebody had to go home, you weren't going to get them back. It wasn't going to happen. Trying to get everybody together again and trying to get them all in the same clothes for another day, it was impossible. And what I mean by that is people would often go home in their costumes and then they'd lose them, or there'd be some important piece.
Arise. Arise from the dead. Arise!
Notice this master shot right here. You're going to keep seeing that shot again and again. See, like here we cut into all the close-ups of the zombies coming out of the ground. But every time it goes back to that master shot, it was shot in order. So we would just keep moving the camera around. Oh, watch this little moment here. I break character for a second.
Gorge! Arise! Ah!
Arise, Gorge.
Arise, Gorge.
I was waiting for him to come out of the hole, and I guess he wasn't ready yet. For some reason, the zombies all spit green.
Mother that Gorge!
Mother that Gorge!
Arise! Yeah! Move forward and go after him.
Move forward and go after him. He's loving it. He's loving it. And she fucking hates it.
The hell are these things?
For you, they are the angels of death.
That line was actually taken right from the movie White Zombie with Bela Lugosi. And that's kind of what my character was sort of modeled after. The zombie leader. Oh, watch Joe right here. Here he goes. Oh, no, Ed falls first, then Joe goes down.
Go after him, and do not bring him back alive.
There was no reason they had to fall there. And by the way, you notice something? Yep, this is the second day. You could tell the makeup's different. The lighting is like, way brighter. But I always attribute it to, oh, I love how he gets stuck right here. He totally made that up. So they were really getting into it. I also, when I did this, I was like, ooh, wow, how cool is this? I'm up in a tree filming, I was up in like a tree fort, and I thought that was cool to get a high angle. So I figured this guy's been chasing the zombies all night, and then the sun came up again, so there's all these time shifts like that. And this is the classic scene where, you notice this is the same exact garage from The Deader the Better. And this is kind of a scene that just didn't really turn out because the movie was never finished. But I wanted to see him use all these weapons. Like a pool stick with cellophane on it for some reason. But coming up, I think, the next one, yep, it's the chainsaw. We never got to use the chainsaw. But I eventually did in The Deader the Better, so it took about 8 years. I finally got to cut up some zombies. They were great as the zombies. They just, I never knew what they were going to do. They'd always, bump into something. They're pretty incompetent zombies, really. I mean, they just wander around and run into things. Oh, and of course they had the green stuff in their mouth here. They come up and, oh, there they go, spitting on the window for no reason. That part cracked me up, I remember. For some reason, I found that very humorous. So let me talk about the technical process of the movie a little bit, if I don't get too distracted. Originally, before we ever heard of the idea of editing, we would just push record, do one take, hope nobody screws up, and then hit stop, and that was it. So whatever you shot in camera was the movie. So for that reason, everything was shot in order. Now for this movie, I had in mind that I wanted to edit because I was starting to learn about these things, and I didn't have the technical knowledge or equipment, but we still shot this one in mind as if we were going to edit later. So we would let the shots linger on a little longer than they would be. Like you would hear me say cut and stuff like that. But we were still shooting in order, and we were still only doing one take. Unless somebody messed up, then we would do a second take. In some ways, I kind of admire my efficiency back then, looking back, because nowadays there is no way I would ever allow myself to film a movie this quickly. I do about 20 takes everything now. It's like, you know, I mean, it depends, but like I'll do as many takes as it needs until I get what I think is the best possible result. Back then, you know, just didn't really care as much, or, you know, didn't really think about it. So I tried editing this movie in many different ways, and the old way, by copying it onto another tape, by doing the 2 VCR thing, it would usually leave a really messy rainbow stripe every time you would cut. So then I got a camera that could actually record from another camera, and it was, you know, it had what they call flying erase head, so that all the cuts were nice and clean. You still couldn't get it frame accurate. You couldn't get it to go where you wanted it to, and but it was better than nothing. And some people were editing with computers by this point, but it was still in its really early stages, and it was expensive. I couldn't afford it. But we did this all in primitive ways. I wish I could explain it more to you, but bam! See, like I just can't. I want to comment on things that are happening right now. So right there, he took the pool stick and like took it apart and like basically did the old trick to look at, like it was going through them. This is my sister here. We all look way different, by the way. But my sister did not want to film this. Oh, the green, bleeding green. I definitely wanted to mention the reason why they would bleed green is because we ran out of red. That's about it. But, you know, we figured it's like they're zombies, so it's like rotting like slime or something. Well, anyway, what I'm trying to say here, my sister did not want to do this, so I actually gave her $20 to film this scene. It was the first time I ever paid an actor any kind of money. So to get back at her, I had him drag her across the rocks, which was kind of painful. And also, she was supposed to be wearing pants, but she wouldn't. So we had to do this. We had to actually put her under the garage door and splash the blood on her because, oh, then I got a comment here. Mike, look at this. I was like, what is that? Like, why did you do that to the camera? Like, you weren't supposed to do that. Like, he broke the fourth wall. I actually think it was because of the movie Scream that came out and everybody was doing that. But yeah, the original effect for the garage door was we were going to have these like dummy legs and we were going to like pull them out. And, but she was wearing shorts, so we couldn't really do the trick. Another thing I want to say is that the whole soundtrack here, the original song right here was Smack My Bitch Up by Prodigy. I don't know why I chose that, but you know, back then you didn't have many options for music, so you would just use whatever you can. So for that reason, I actually, you know, for this I used all licensed music, so I had to change the original soundtrack, and it really sucked because a lot of these sound effects were like, you know, not separate from the original, you know, soundtrack. It was all together. It's hard to explain. I don't have enough time right now to explain it, but basically I had to redo a lot of these sound effects, which originally were all done by mouth. There was no sound effect library or anything, so we would just, you know, do it all like, so here he's going to chop Joe up in the fan, and then the movie's going to end abruptly because we never finished it. We've always had talks of finishing the movie. I actually saw the whole cast not too long ago, and we all talked about, you know, maybe finishing it after all these years as a joke. But I'm too busy, really, and I don't think, again, for the same reasons, a lot of people are busy too, and it doesn't seem like we're all going to be able to get together to do it. But you know, the only point would be to do it with the original cast. But like I said, we all look completely different now. But it's just a joke anyway. So the movie's over. I'm talking to a black screen. And at the time I'm recording this, it's 2011. I guess go watch the outtakes, or as I used to call it, memorable moments from the raw footage, because I was a fucking idiot.